G'day folks. Well, since I'm rained out outside, I was going to be scrapping some air conditioner coils and things, but the rain has set in and it is, well, raining full on. So, time to keep working on the injection moulder. We've got to get this thing apart, get it out of here. I want to have this control cabinet off by tonight, the end of tonight. I want to have the guarding and everything off, all that stuff, and yeah, it should be pretty good. I've already got a few goodies out of it, as well as piles of bits from work. Work gave me all the old prox sensors and things like that. Proximity sensors, they detect proximity to a metal object, so they're good for door switches and things like that. Security systems, automation, that sort of thing. You know, just have a trip arm that moves in front of them, or a travelling object move in front of them to tell it where it has stopped at. Emergency stop switch, cycle start switch with a light, backlight. A number of big quick connect, or not quick connectors, but multi-pin industrial connectors. I don't know how many pins there are in them, but they're fairly decent. 16 pins, yeah. 16 pin heavy duty high voltage, or not high voltage, but 415 volt low voltage connectors. So there's a couple of them, there's 3 so far, I think there's more. There's also that one down here, which has never been used. It's got 2 16 pin, 24 pin connectors. Is that 16? Yeah, all the way up to 24 pins. Pretty impressive. Harting, Germany. Again, never been used. Same with the 3-phase outlet, that's never been used in Australia. That's like a German or European 3-phase outlet. I don't know what I'd use that for. But either way, I'm going to probably take that panel off, try and get the cabinet off, get all these plugs and things out, feed the looms back through intact, and then I'll work out what to do with this, because this card rack and everything's got to be worth a fair bit of money as second-hand components. It was all working when it came out of service, and same with the control pad. It's not all damaged or anything like that, it's in really good condition. All the keys are there, the switches all work. No, it's a good source of parts for somebody else, but I don't know, I don't mind keeping switches and things like that, but the actual Unilog 1020 control system I've got no use for, so I might as well sell it. Being only 13 years old, it's still very relevant. Anyway, that's about all for now. I'm going to clean some of this stuff up, get rid of some of the junk, and we'll get into tearing down the guarding, get all that off, get that off, the heater box, or heater control box, the rams, all that stuff can come out, and get ready to separate the front half. Because I've got most of the oil out now, pretty much good to go. Just a matter of getting all these loose bits and pieces tidied up. I'll make a box, a bin, plastic bin for all this stuff, because we've got cable chain, we've got a blanking block for the Bosch air pressure regulator down the back, there's solenoids, lots of proximity sensors, there's a little high pressure hydraulic gauge line, something like 3000 psi hose. That's really handy, it's good to have. Yeah, there's heaps of stuff. 4-pin proximity sensor cable, screw on IP66 or something like that, completely waterproof, immersion proof, good stuff. Okay, after a bit of cleaning up, let's have a look inside the heater control panel. There isn't really much in here. I don't know what voltage the heaters run on, but there doesn't appear to be a transformer to step it down to 110, so I'm guessing they are 220 volt AC. I'll know when I get this heat shield off. They'll have stamps on them, but the panel is 2-pin European style sockets. You can't plug anything else into them, at least in Australia. Those are thermocouple plugs. The cable's down there somewhere, but they're all wire braided and highly insulated cables. There's one there from the nozzle heating band, which is degraded to say the least. Chlorine from the burning PVC residue has attacked quite a lot of stuff on this. There's a lot of rust. But that's just the nature of soft PVC and even PVC in general. The thermocouples come down here to this control card. The blue cable is thermocouple control. We'll have a closer look at this when I get into the control rack, but that's the temperature control card. I'm going to be keeping these in as good a condition as I can and selling a lot of it as spare parts. The rack, that is, and the control pad. Probably also the Rexroth control board there as well. Just important stuff for injection moulding machines. The relays and things are sort of an off-the-shelf telemechanique unit, and they're handy for other things. Same with the contactors. As you can see, there's socket-mounted cube relays, but there are also contactors with lots of auxiliary contacts, so they're worth hanging on to for myself. But things like this Rexroth control card and the rack, all that sort of stuff, useless at the moment, so I'd rather sell all of that and the mold protection module. It's a Maser, what is it? Can't quite tell what model it is. It's made by Maser, M-A-Y-S-E-R. That's mold protection. So yeah, I'm going to tear this apart, strip it all out. I'll keep the control box and everything. I'll leave it as it is for the time being. I'm just going to basically just sever the cables and get it out of there. It'll all be fully reworked for whatever I want to use it for. Same with the multi-pin control cable there. I'll just cut them off at the outlets and rework it accordingly. I've got 3 of those 2-pin European style plugs to put in there, so it's still going to be useful. If maybe even to DC, 110 volt DC. Use it for the Westinghouse generator when I get that set up one day. One day I'll get that generator set up. It's made in 1904. It'd be nice to get it going properly again for the first time in decades, but for now, let's get this machine out of the way. Too much machine in the way. I've already got plenty of good parts out of it too, including some nice high tensile cap screws. They're bright zinc coated, but they're really good. They're off the main hydraulic fittings, and likewise all the connectors and things like that. I'm giving that to my workmate. He's building a concrete paver mould system, and you use a industrial vibrator to remove air bubbles from the concrete. You just mount it on the underside of the mould and it helps settle the concrete and get any air bubbles up and out of it, so that's actually quite ideal. It's a lot more energetic than I thought too when you plug it in when it's not attached to something. It likes to jump around all over the place. I might even open it up and show you how it works. Mind you, there's nothing to it, it's just a motor and 2 counterweights. Yeah, here we go, vibrator test. Interesting little jigger. Can stay in there for now. Anyway, let's keep dismantling stuff. That's the aim of the game. Because it's wet as hell outside. I can't do anything else. Alright, control box and cowling is off, and the cables lie severed. As they say, once the bullet leaves the barrel, there's no going back. And that's exactly the case. Lots of good cable though, definitely salvageable. Salvaging all this stuff. Well, most of the cable, all of the plugs. That's for the linear potentiometer, or one of them. I think the top one on the clamp unit. That one there, it's got a long cable on it. Same with that proximity sensor. We've got conduit. Heaps of good stuff, fantastic stuff. Yeah. Limit switches. There's 2 up there. They're all door safeties that tell it when the door is closed, open or part way. Obviously you've got the closed limit. There'll be an upper open limit, and there'll also be one to tell it if it's midway between open and close, and it'll throw up an error. Really good stuff. That's conduit. That used to house these cables. They went down there and down to the bottom. So that can be unclamped and removed. That can be removed. So another flexible conduit. Really good stuff. Danfoss pneumatic solenoid valves. That water flow thing is completely eaten out. That's not worth keeping. That was made by Whitman. Now, or Whitman Battenfeld. I think they combined some years ago. Whitman make ancillary equipment like chillers, heaters, water flow equipment, granulators, shredders, that sort of stuff. Battenfeld make the machines, heavy stuff. So yeah, whitmanbattenfeld.com. It's a good read through. They've even got an online glossary or online dictionary of injection molding terms and details, things like that, partially illustrated. Alright, now I'm just having fun. Rip it to bits. No more caring about whether or not we can run it. I'm going to try and run the injection unit on its own, even turn it into a filament maker or something like that. As somebody suggested, make a filament extruder for a 3D printer, which is something I'd really like to get. I've seen some nice cheap ones, about 500 bucks. That's a quarter of what I'm spending on something on Sunday. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but yeah. Well, not a quarter, a third. I'm only paying 1,500 for it. That's a third, damn it. Yeah. 3D printing, or not 3D printing, rapid prototyping, as people like to call it. Pretty cool. And I would like to see some, well, not that I ever really use it for much, it's just one of those fun little things. You see that tie bar's already moved. Oh, that's because I was jacking up off it. I was using it as a jacking point. But yeah, linear potentiometer. It's a LWH225. I think it's either a potentiometer or a something similar. Normally I'd see the indicator of a resistor, a zigzag wire, so maybe it's not. It could be an encoder. More than likely it's an encoder. But either way, I'm going to keep all those bits, including its mounting plate, clamps and everything. Same with that one there. Very, very cool bits of kit. Oh well, let's get the rest of the guard off. We take all these cap screws out and drop the wheels off, and away we go. Okay, well, got most of the guarding off. As you can see, there's a bit of a safety system here for the platen. When the doors open, this engages. This little spring-loaded single-acting air cylinder pushes this out of the way when it's time to operate. But as soon as the system goes out of operating mode, it'll release and allow this chock to stop the platen from falling in the event something goes wrong. And the reason it knows it's in position is because of this proximity sensor that used to screw in there. So it would come up high enough to detect that it was fully engaged. If it wasn't, it's part way, it'd throw up an error or a fault, something like that. And that's operated by that little SMC pneumatics valve. It's only a single acting one, but it does the job. Anyway, it's fairly redundant now that the platen's all the way down as far as it can go, but I'll just leave it there. There's no point in really taking it out yet. I will strip this pneumatics equipment out though. That's next. I've disconnected the air rams. I can take those out completely. There's a smaller pilot valve or something in there. It's all Bosch stuff, high quality. There's the main valve over the other side there. There's a ton of good pneumatics equipment in here, and these screw type fittings. Yeah, a bit easier, or I think a bit more solid than the regular push fittings. Little push and release ones, Festo fittings, aren't quite as solid as these. So yeah, that'll all be dismantled sequentially. Yeah, still got to get that linear potentiometer or encoder, whatever it is, out. It's only 3 wire, so I don't think it's an encoder. I'm pretty sure it's a potentiometer of some kind. Yeah, the valve's allowing air to go in one way but not the other. Good stuff. Really good stuff. And take these grub screws out and remove the guide rods from the door. They'll come in handy. And I've also got all the guide wheels. And they fit over like so. Clean it up enough and this thing will slide pretty easy. Pretty good considering I found a few hundred very stretchy, almost like spear gun rubber O-ring seals, like big O-ring seals from pump housings in the skip at work the other day. Could be fun. Make a little sled out of one of these guide rods and a couple of these, and maybe cut and stretch some super stretchy O-rings between the two chassis members, and it might make a nice little sled type crossbow or something like that. You can have a bit of fun with that one. That's a bit later though. There's plenty of cool stuff I can make with this. These tie bars have to come out too. That one's already partially separated. I don't know what's holding in the bottom, but we can soon find out. Just knock all that apart, take that whole back off essentially. And the ends of the ram rods are held in place with these locking collars. I imagine once you remove these cap screws, these can be unscrewed and this whole platen assembly just lifted off these rods. At least I hope. But I'll probably have to separate this all as one single piece and drop it to the floor. Not too sure. I do want to salvage this steel plate, but if I can't get it apart in any reasonable and safe means, well, it can all go to the scrap bin as the same thing, as a single piece, which is unfortunate, but I do want this, I suppose you'd call it 1.5 inch thick plate. It's pretty good. It's about 30mm thick or so. Yeah, I'd say it's a good 30mm, 35mm thick steel plate. That'll make a nice tabletop. Okay, I'm just doing a bit of a research on these Novatechnic, what I thought were potentiometers are actually transducers, and there's even one on eBay for $175 US. That's a bit of money for a second-hand item. It's not even new. You can see the rod's got a lot of rust and wear on it compared with the one I've got. But yeah, Novatechnic group, plenty of info on them. Programmable linear sensors, tons of good stuff. Got rotary encoders, linear potentiometers, rotary potentiometers, you name it. Pressure transducers, temperature senders I guess as well, all sorts of things. But yeah, not cheap stuff. I'll have to look up the other one, but yeah, it's not actually a resistor. You'd see the zigzag symbol of a resistor on there, but this is actually a transducer. That's some pretty neat bit of gear, and not cheap. Good project funder though, if I put it on eBay, I guess. Alright, getting there. You got the top piece off. No grub screws, no nothing. It's just basically pressed on there. So you drive it straight off and voila, nice slab of 30mm steel plate. You can still see the cut marks. Probably laser or gas maybe, don't know, plasma cut. So that's out. There appear to be grub screws or something, or pins holding these tie bars in, but that's alright because that's still supporting the injection unit. I have to go shopping for some Allen keys and get, well, bigger ones, particularly for those down there. Not sure what sizes these are. I'll measure them up soon. But I've got the tie bar, well not tie bar, but ram rod locking nuts loose. They had 4 cap screws locking each other together and pinching the threads and tying into the base plate there. Yeah, so I can remove them whenever I need to. I don't want to remove them just yet, but they are free and they will spin off. So that's really good. I'm going to try and salvage as much of this as I can, but yeah. I was trying to think of a way to adapt to these rams, but I don't have the taps or drills to actually drill and tap those flange fittings and just fit regular hydraulic lines. I would like to do it, but it's going to require some pretty serious work, and I've got to get the whole thing apart and re-engineer it, so it's not really worth it, unfortunately, just for the sake of squashing a few things. But the shredder will make up for that, because the shredder is going to have a lot of pieces of this introduced and built into it. Should be really good. And the injection unit, well, I'll keep that as one single piece. It's a neat bit of kit, a really neat bit of kit.